Structured settlement and I need cash now.
Call J.G. Wentworth, 877-CASH.
Call to find out how to get a $5,000 cash advance for your structured settlement. That's $5,000 to use any way you like.
877-CASH.
Call J.G. Wentworth now for your $5,000. Offer is subject to meeting certain underwriting and transaction requirements. Call the number provided or visit 5000now.com for further detail.
Does this make you want a Reese's? Oh, how about this? Okay, we'll stop. Just kidding. We're not gonna stop. Not sorry. Reese's.
It's time to crown a champion in Kansas City. Welcome to the Children's Mercy Victory Field at Swope Soccer Village in Kansas City, Missouri for the Big 12 Championship Final. The 14th ranked team in the nation, West Virginia, the number 2 seed, facing the defending champ and regular season champion Baylor Bears, ranked number 9 in the country. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Along with former UCLA midfielder Jessica Stamp, I'm Brenda Van Lingen. Well, we got the number 1 versus number 2 matchup we were looking forward to, and these two teams combined have won 5 of the last 6 Big 12 championship finals. It should be an epic battle today.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this matchup. Clearly the best 2 teams in the Big 12 Conference, and they had a great game in Morgantown earlier this year where the Bears upended West Virginia for the first time, beating them at home. They had gone 40 unbeaten games in a row in the conference play. So there's a lot of emotional storylines here today in this final.
We're looking forward to it. Let's take a look at the bracket, as this is the first year that the quarterfinals, semis, and championship game played over 2 weekends in Kansas City. Baylor, the number 1 seed, beat Iowa State 3-0 in the quarters. Then it took overtime to dispense of Texas Tech in the semis. West Virginia, the number 2 seed, beat Oklahoma with 3 second-half goals. And then in the semis, the Mountaineers beat Texas 1-0 to advance. Let's take a look at those highlights from the West Virginia semifinal win.
So that was a pretty typical performance from West Virginia in the semifinal, where they are going to pepper their opponent with a lot of shots, but then they have a little bit of trouble converting. So while it seemed like they dominated Texas in that semifinal, they did allow Texas to hang around a little bit and had some dangerous chances there toward the end. But really, they're going to rely on their seniors to step up today for another championship, because they know what it's like to win championships. One of those is Shania Gordon on that right flank. She is super dangerous, super creative and slippery, and she actually will get in behind the defense more centrally now. She's been coming across. Here's Nadia Gill in the midfield, penetrating and finding Gordon in behind. You're going to see that a lot more from Gordon, trying to help out on scoring goals this year rather than being so much the creator on that flank.
She's had the game-winning goal in both games for West Virginia. Let's take a look at how Baylor was able to get past Texas Tech in the semis.
So Texas Tech played really well against Baylor in the semifinal, gave them a great matchup. Baylor had lots of chances as well, but Texas Tech kind of took it to them, and really Baylor was fortunate to get this score from Julie James right before halftime to get some momentum, but Tech came back strong in that second half, and they just put the pressure on the Bears, and they were able to get the equalizer off of this deflection here, and Kirsten Davis slips it in. And so it did actually take the Bears to overtime to win this, and really just something special here from Jackie Crowther, who rips one from distance, the super sub senior for the Bears, to get that win and get them back in the championship.
So we have the top 2 teams in the Big 12, the best 2 goalkeepers, 6 members of the all Big 12 first team. A Big 12 championship title is on the line. It's all right here, coming up next.
There are those who stand forever ready, ready to defend the nation, ready to fight for what matters, no matter what. Do you have what it takes? Find out at GoArmy.com/warriors.
Friends, they're a lot like salsa. Each one's unique in their own way. Hot, mild, cheesy, And garlic.
I thought it was a costume party.
Get together already.
With Tostitos.
The beautiful fall colors surrounding Swope Soccer Village here in Kansas City, Missouri. It's a little chilly at 47 degrees as everybody is wrapped up on the field. Looking forward to a great Big 12 soccer championship today between West Virginia and Baylor. The head coach for West Virginia is Nikki Izzo-Brown, the only coach in the history of West Virginia soccer. She has 351 victories to her credit in her career. And take a look at her lineup as the goalkeeper, Riley Foster, all Big 12 first team, and a conference best 8 Mountaineers, Jessica, earned 9 all Big 12 honors this year.
Really impressive team here, and we have a 4-3-3 for West Virginia, and it's an aggressive 4-3-3. You talked about all those accolades. One right there, number 4, Bianca St. George. She is the Defensive Player of the Year for the Big 12, and she's one of those that's going to come out of the back and be aggressive on offense. She was the goal leader for this squad going into this weekend, but Shania Gordon has kind of turned those tables after these 2 game winners. So look at number 4 to come out of the back for West Virginia.
West Virginia, the number 2 seed, facing the number 1 seed. The regular season champ, Paul Jobson, the soccer coach of the year in the Big 12 this year, as he's led his team to not only the regular season title this year, but they are the defending champion of this tournament. And as we take a look at his lineup, Jennifer Want, all Big 12 second team, and a talented lineup in front of her.
Also in a 4-3-3, but they play a little bit different. They're a man-to-man marking team. They're very physical. They are aggressive as well, very organized defensively, and Want has been huge in goal for this Baylor team. She had 9 saves versus West Virginia when they met during the regular season, kept them in it, and allowed them to steal that victory away in Morgantown. So this Baylor team has just been so consistent for a year now, over a year. It really was started halfway through last year, the regular season. They've just been on a tremendous run here, and all credit to this lineup that Paul Jobson settled on. They're really clicking together this year.
In fact, a 10-match win streak for Baylor coming into the final today. You've got 2 of the top 15 teams in the nation, the 2 best teams in the Big 12 Conference. So many talented and honored players on both teams, and as you mentioned, Baylor beat West Virginia in Morgantown. That never had happened in Big 12 play since West Virginia came to the Big 12. And so an opportunity here for that rematch, so to speak, after Baylor beat West Virginia in the regular season.
Baylor, they've just been on a high really since last year. Lots of confidence, and they took that to Morgantown, and so I think you're going to see that here again today. Be a little different from the semifinal. West Virginia faced a Texas team that dropped in a little bit and was playing a little bit more conservative, trying to keep it close defensively, and I don't think you're going to see that from Baylor. Baylor doesn't have that kind of mentality. They're a team that feels like they can compete with anyone in the country now. They've won championships. We talked about between these 2 teams, 5 of the last 6 have been won by these 2 teams. So they're wanting another championship. They're not going to drop in, bunker, or anything like that against West Virginia. They're going to take it to them, and West Virginia knows that, as they saw in Morgantown earlier in the year.
Looking forward to it, as Shania Gordon, the senior, has had game-winning goals in each game here in the Big 12 Championship. Just 28 seconds into the second half against Oklahoma, she scored the first goal of 3, and then the game winner in that 1-0 victory over Texas in the semifinals.
She's a player who's started every single game of her career for West Virginia. And like I mentioned before, she used to be more of a creator on that flank. She would kind of open up space, get in line, send the ball across to her strikers. But she's been called upon in her senior year to fill an even larger role as an offensive player in terms of trying to get more goals. So she's stepped up into that pressure, especially recently. And we talked with Coach Izzo-Brown about this team needs to peak at the right time, and it seems like they're doing that here in the tournament.
And as you look at the Baylor squad, they have been led by Julie James. She's an all Big 12 first team selection 3 straight years, and number 1 in the history of the Baylor program in minutes played.
James is just perfect example of a complete player. She's a box-to-box midfielder. She's the engine for this team. She's a great leader. She's someone who can score. She's great with her head on set pieces. She's really a good example of what this Baylor team has been the past year. Really consistent, solid, across the board, doing good things across the field. That's kind of been Baylor's mentality, is they're just going to be a tough team mentality-wise. They're going to bring it every single game. You saw there them getting together. They talked about how Faith has kind of driven that mentality, how they approach every game as playing for something bigger than themselves, and so they treat every game like a championship game, and I think that's shown with their wins this year, their consistency over the past year.
It's been a competitive year in the Big 12. There's a good look at Julie James there, the senior from Fairview, Texas. And in the Big 12, 5 teams are in the top 25 RPI. Baylor, number 3, West Virginia, 14. Texas is number 11. That's who West Virginia beat in the semifinals. TCU, number 20, and KU, number 22. So as teams get ready for postseason play, it's been a competitive year in the Big 12. A lot of great games here in the championship over the last 2 weekends, and now it's time for the finals as West Virginia and Baylor get underway. West Virginia in their Navy uniforms as they go left to right on your screen. Baylor, the number 1 seed, in their white jerseys. They'll go right to left on your screen. The referee for today is Kevin Terry, assistant referee Ryan Cook, and Emily Fletcher. There's James in the middle of the field, clearing to the far side. A nice header to get things moving, and Baylor going to push up. Reagan Paget on that right flank. Stolen away by the back line. This West Virginia back line so strong.
But that's a player that Coach Izzo Brown pointed out when we talked to her yesterday was Paget on that right side. Super fast player getting in line. You might even see St. George and Brewster in the back switch up a bit today to kind of deal with these different players on the width for West Virginia. But Paget's one of those athletes that Baylor has been just a threat on the flank for the past couple of years.
And a goal kick here for Riley Foster. Foster, the all Big 12 first team selection for goalkeeper. Baylor's Jennifer Want, all Big 12 second team. So, I mean, you really couldn't ask for more for a final. The top 2 goalkeepers, so many recognized with all Big 12 first team honors. You've got some great freshmen that will make an impact that we'll talk to you about today, but a nice combination, both these teams, of veterans and also new players. That's the defensive player of the year, Bianca St. George, but Baylor with it back. Kennedy Brown crosses into the box, an opportunity for Baylor, but Foster able to grab it up for the Mountaineers.
So you see the pressure there from Baylor. That's what can happen is Baylor plays such high pressure, and then they also win all these second and first balls, and it just keeps the ball at the other end, and then an opportunity will arise out of that. And you saw there Kennedy Brown going all the way to the other side to get a hold of that ball and send it across. So Baylor's going to send a lot of numbers forward when they do win those balls in the middle, and that's something that West Virginia's got to be aware of, is there's a lot more jerseys in that box to mark up when they win these second balls in the midfield.
Ariel Leach to throw it in, one of the many seniors on this team. Hannah Abraham. And so an opportunity here early for West Virginia on the corner kick. Jordan Brewster, one of the freshmen who made the all Big 12 freshman team and his second team all Big 12, serves it up into the box, headed away by Winland. And West Virginia able to maintain possession. There's Esther Maya Keith, another one of those. We're going to keep telling you all the all Big 12 selections. Maya Keith, all Big 12 first team as well. A service to the 18. And Jordan Brewster going to chase it down. Brewster was an alternate for the U.S. U20 national team for 2018.
She can play up top too. She's been pushing forward a bit more here later in the season as she's gotten more comfortable playing in that left back position, but someone like St. George who can come forward and help out on offense out of the back.
And ahead, a lot of activity right there in the box. Riley Foster having to come out as Kennedy Brown was right there to attack, but Foster able to grab it in time.
First time cross into the box, and one of those that's kind of in between the back line, and Foster did well there to go grab it. Kennedy just played her body instead of going straight up trying to get a hold of the ball.
Kennedy Brown for Baylor, such a great story. She was a walk-on to this program, really didn't play much at all her freshman and sophomore years, and has earned her way into a starting role. When we talked to Paul Jobson about her at yesterday's practice, he said, you know, we've got these players that have started for 4 years and have so many minutes, more minutes than anybody in program history, Julie James and Sarah King, but we've got Kennedy Brown who earned her way on after not playing at all the first 2 years.
Well, last year she had to step on when Jackie Crowther suffered a knee injury and had to fill that role kind of suddenly, and she just took it and has basically been a starter ever since and was one of the heroes of last year's championship winning team here in the final.
Here we go, Bears. Come on.
And Baylor beat TCU in the championship final last year. West Virginia has won every title game that they've been a part of. They're 3-0 in final games, but they haven't won a championship since 2016. Now, that's not that long ago, but considering how they dominated previous to that, they didn't win the regular season title or conference championship title last year or the regular season this year, and they are hungry to get back to that position in the conference. Out in front, Kennedy Brown trying to get to the end of that one, and it's pushed out over to St. George. St. George in a tussle with James, and a hard foul by Julie James as Bianca St. George goes to the turf.
A really good little cutback here, and then you can see tussling for the ball, and a late tackle gets her legs as St. George is trying to get out wide to the right.
Those are two extremely strong athletic players, both seniors, both understanding what's on the line. You're already seeing this tone being set here early in the match.
There you go. Get that.
And we had a chance to talk to both coaches before the game, and we mentioned that we talked with Nikki Izzo Brown yesterday at practice, and she said to us, you know, I've got veterans on this team that have the experience of winning the championship, but also the disappointment of losing, and we're going to lean on that experience coming in today.
Lead on experience and with the players knowing what it's like to win, but also the disappointment of loss. They know what's at stake, so I'm going to really lean on those experiences.
Especially not just in the Big 12 tournament, but this is a West Virginia team that has been to the NCAA final, and they've had that on the cusp of winning a national championship. That's the type of program that Nikki Izzo Brown has built. So that is now the new expectation.
And a shot just wide for West Virginia. As Jessica mentioned, you get a good look at Grace Cutler, the senior, made all Big 12 second team. We're going to see a lot of shots from West Virginia. That's the way they operate.
Yeah, and it's good. They're really aggressive. You want that. They're an aggressive offensive team, and they've been working on the quality of those shots and trying to get that percentage up where they're actually getting more shots on goal, trying to get it away from the keeper. So, and it also works against the team's mentality. If you're constantly being shot on, you start to think, wow, we're getting dominated here. So it's also a good thing to kind of counterbalance a team's confidence when you keep peppering them with shots. So that is part of their game plan, is to keep shooting, but also do a little bit higher quality shots on goal.
Good look at Nadia Gill in the center at the top of the D. Now St. George has it stolen away by Sarah Norman. It'll be a throw-in for West Virginia. We're already getting a sense of how physical this game is going to be.
Yeah, both these teams super athletic, and coaches mentioned that. It's very physical, but not in a dirty way. It's just these are fast, tough players, strong players on both teams. They're just super athletes out there. So probably the top two athletic teams in the conference, also really good soccer players. So they know to get the edge on each other, they're going to have to be physical, win those 50-50 balls, battle, 1v1 battles, as well as across the field defensively as a unit. So, and these set pieces might come into play as well. It's important.
Corner kick from Jordan Brewster sends it long, though, the opposite side of the goal, and falls harmlessly over the end line as Baylor will have a goal kick. Jennifer Want out of Brookfield, Wisconsin, a sophomore. Winland, who actually leads the team in goals scored on the year. Here's St. George, boots it over the sideline. And it will be Kaylee Abels, a freshman out of Waco, Texas, number 6, to throw it in. Also a member of the All Big 12 freshman team. And a whistle blown, a foul on Baylor. It will be Mountaineers' free kick.
So James again, high pressure. She's pushed up top. I mentioned how she's box to box. She'll drop all the way back on defense and then push all the way forward and kind of sneak it into the box up top. So you'll find her up there with Winland up top a bit, trying to help out on offense.
Sarah King, all Big 12 first team, number 19 for Baylor, just headed that one out of bounds. Kaylee Abels, she was an offensive player, a forward, actually scored the most goals in Waco high school history, but converted to defender in the back line of this Baylor defense. And stolen away. Brown and St. George jostling. Flores puts a foot into it. And there's Shania Gordon. Winland pushing ahead, not able to get to the end of it was Paget. And West Virginia sends it back to Foster.
Here we go, Bears, come on!
That was a good example, though, of a key for Baylor is when they win the ball, can they break out quickly? And they pushed up Winland up top, who's used to be a defender, so they put her up top as a big target player so that she can hold the ball and then those fast wingers can fly off of her. And you saw there as Paget tried to get him behind. Brewster reading that really well, though, for West Virginia.
Jennifer Want coming outside the box to get that one out of play, clear that out of danger. A little chilly here in Kansas City, Missouri. A lot of rain overnight, and that cleared up this morning. So cloudy and cool, the wind coming out of the north. So it's 47 degrees, but it feels chillier than that. West Virginia actually stayed in town since last weekend. Last Sunday was the quarterfinals, and instead of going back to Morgantown and back to the Eastern time zone, they decided to stay here in Kansas City. They've gone shopping this week. They went to the movies. They had a Halloween celebration, but they wanted to stay here and be focused and have that rest and recovery for this weekend. It paid off well in their game, their 1-0 victory over Texas in the semifinals, and here they are back in the championship game again.
Keep it, Lauren. Keep it, Lauren. Stay on her. Get the ball out of there.
Gill.
Let's go, man.
And here comes Winland. Turning, pivoting in the center, just like Jessica was just talking about.
Come on, Baylor!
Then Nadia Gill with it back.
Keep it, keep it!
Segala plays it out to Gill. And Maya Keith came up with the collision there with Winland. Esther Maya Keith out of Quebec City, Quebec. An unsung hero on this team, can always be counted on to do her job consistently.
Hey, let's strike now, come on!
So a free kick for Baylor as they bring Jennifer Want, the goalkeeper, up over the midway stripe, and she puts it into play. All the way into the box and right into the hands of Riley Foster. St. George giving chase.
Get there,
Segala.
Come on, man! Win the ball!
Maya Keith punching it ahead. Gordon going to try to get to the end of that one on the left flank. Shania Gordon into the box with the cross. And not able to get to it. There was Lauren Segala. But it will result in a corner kick. Another one now for West Virginia. As Hannah Abraham will go over to serve it up this time for West Virginia. Third corner already of the match for the Mountaineers. And it was deflected over the inline. Baylor's only loss of the year on their way to the regular season title was the first game at Texas. And since then, they've reeled off 10 wins in a row. For West Virginia, they're the #2 seed. They lost to Baylor at home, as we mentioned, and then they lost their last regular season game at home to Kansas. Kansas team that has aspirations to be in the NCAA tournament this year. That was a big win for them on the road, and then they tied Texas before losing on penalty kicks in the quarterfinals.
Get the ball back there!
Ariel Leach giving instructions from behind.
Let's go, Baylor! Stay on. Stay on. Get on her! Watch your girl, stay on, and let's go!
So it seems like things have calmed down quite a bit now for both the teams. Baylor started off kind of out of the gate, having a lot of fire, attacking, and now West Virginia is starting to get a hold of the ball a bit more and trying to possess it. They're still struggling a little bit with how man-to-man Baylor plays and their high pressure to connect more than a few passes, but you can see that they're really trying to connect a little bit more with each other instead of just making it choppy and just sending balls forward.
Segala with a cross, headed away by Julie James. Stolen away by Abels. Abels, the freshman, showing her speed up the left sideline, past St. George. But George, Defensive Player of the Year in the Big 12 for a reason.
When we talked to Coach Izzo Brown about St. George, a lot of what we think of is her offensive presence, where she comes forward and helps out on offense. She was the leading goal scorer going into the tournament for West Virginia. But the truth is she's just a hard-nosed 1v1 defender. She is so hard to beat 1v1. So you think of her coming forward like she's doing right here and helping out on offense, but she's also just kind of an old-school defender.
An opportunity here for West Virginia, but Want able to scoop it up. That's a good look at St. George.
She reads things really well, and she can kind of predict the touch of a player around her and then get her body in between the ball and the player. And I've seen her do that quite a bit throughout the tournament, this tournament. And I was jokingly saying to Coach Izzo Brown, I remember a player in the semifinal trying to touch it past St. George, and I was like, there's no way you're going to beat St. George on the dribble. You need to combine with someone to get in behind. There's just no way. She's so good at reading you and stepping in front of you if you're going to try and beat her.
Yeah, earlier this year when we had a West Virginia game, Nikki Izzo Brown said she does her job and at moments will do everyone else's job as well. Her energy is contagious. We're in Kansas City, Missouri at Swope Soccer Village for the Big 12 Championship Final. The #1 seed Baylor, #2 seed West Virginia. No score here with just a little less than 25 minutes to go in the first half of play. Along with Jessica Stamp, I'm Brenda Van Lingen. Glad you could join us today. It's a chilly afternoon in Kansas City, Missouri, cloudy. Julie James giving chase for Baylor, but Riley Foster able to smother it. Foster, all Big 12 first team goalkeeper. And a stout back line for West Virginia. Baylor won the first matchup between these, the first and only matchup between these two this year in regular season. Gave West Virginia their first home conference loss in Big 12 history. And we had a chance to talk to Paul Jobson about this Baylor squad.
You know, we value ourselves as being an athletic team. I think they take athleticism to another level. Great soccer players as we are. I think it's a pretty good match, to be quite honest with you. But they've been here a number of times. We've been here once before, so I think there's some value to their history and things like that. And Nikki's obviously done a great job building that program. I think it's just longevity there. But I think we're building a new legacy with what we're doing at Baylor.
Baylor won the championship last year, and they are the regular season winners as well this year. So really building on that. He said that we've been here once before. They won in 2012, but none of the members of this team were part of that championship final. But as we mentioned in the open, these two teams have combined for 5 of the last 6 Big 12 championship titles. They've been here, done that.
Well, and I think very deserving for Coach Jobson to have won Coach of the Year in the Big 12, because like you said, to build a legacy is very difficult, to have that consistency year to year. And as much as West Virginia has done that for so long, they saw right after winning or getting to the national championship final that it's hard to get back there. I mean, it's so hard to stay at the top. It is very difficult. And I think the last couple of years, what Jobson has done with this program to keep that consistency and that kind of dominance in terms of winning titles, that's pretty impressive. So they're trying to, like you said, keep that going, that legacy going, and also take the momentum into the NCAA tournament. Again, I think this program now has aspirations to win a national championship. Once you break that top 10 in the national rankings, you go, oh, we could win this whole thing if we play well in the tournament. So they really want to take that momentum with a title today into the NCAAs and try and challenge for that Final Four spot.
Baylor on a 10-match win streak coming into this game. 17-4 on the year. They're ranked number 9 in the country, as Jessica mentioned. They're number 3 RPI, which is the highest in program history.
Well, Nate got to the Elite 8 last year where they faced Duke, who's now become also a perennial Final Four team. They faced Duke in the Elite 8 and were on the cusp of that Final Four berth a year ago. So this program has kind of skyrocketed in the past few years. And again, when you see that finish line right there, you can kind of taste it, know that you can play with any team. They had beaten USC, the defending national champions, last year in the NCAA tournament. They beat Notre Dame as well. So they advanced through some really tough powerhouse programs, and so now they're becoming known as one of those programs that it's in the top 10 vying for those spots in the Final Four.
Well, that's when you establish that reputation for yourself as in postseason play, and they certainly have done that. You know, we haven't talked in this broadcast about the change in format of this championship. This is the first year that the quarterfinals were played the Sunday before. Semifinals were Friday, and now the final game. So over 2 weekends, the championship had played instead of, as it was in the past, 3 games in 5 days, and both coaches happy about that.
I think it's just too much. It's been such a long season already, and then to cram in 3 games in such a short period of time for some of these conferences. Not all the conferences even have a tournament at all, and so to cram that in right before the NCAA tournament is really tough on these teams. So I too think it's a good thing that they split out this tournament so that the quarters are a week before, the weekend before, and like you said, it helps these teams going into the NCAA tournament too, because it's more like the NCAA tournament. You're not playing 3 games that close to each other in the NCAA tournament either. So this gets them more in a rhythm, and they can just kind of continue this tournament mentality going into the NCAAs.
Less than 20 minutes to go here in the first half. Still no score in the Big 12 championship final. Baylor looking to win back-to-back championship titles. West Virginia looking for their first since 2016. Addison Clark dealing against Abels of Baylor. There's Paget stepping in. She's got Cameron Wentlet up ahead, but nice defensive effort from Grace Cutler. To Gordon, back to Cutler. Segala on the right flank. Defended well by Sarah King. And then right back to St. George, right at the top of the 18, a whiff, but still able to keep her foot on it. And Baylor clears it. Cutler over. There's Gill. Shifting sides of the field. Segala with the cross and too high. Our first substitution of the game, Baylor has their excellent freshman Taylor Moon coming into the game out of Highland, Texas, went to Marcus High School. She'll be replacing Kennedy Brown. Paul Jobson talks about Taylor Moon being such a quality player, and she will be a special one as soon as she figures out how good she can really be. Paget giving chase on the left flank. Cross. James, #1 in minutes in Baylor program history, alongside Sarah King, who is #2 in minutes played. Those two have played and started throughout their careers for Baylor.
I remember when King first came to this tournament, she was kind of like a pageant. She was on that outside, and she was super fast and getting end line. She was the assist leader for this team, and she's just had to fill whatever role Coach Jobson feels like she can give them, and that's been moving her into the defense. So last year she played outside back. Now she's playing center back for Baylor when she used to be a winger, and done really well there anchoring the center of the defense. Remember from a year ago, the championship team, Baylor's championship team a year ago, they pretty much lost their entire back line. So 3 of those players were seniors. Precious Akinyerge in the middle especially was a huge part of that Baylor defense that won that title a year ago. So big shoes to fill for King, and she's done really well shifting over this year.
Abraham with the cross. Gordon back to the middle. Clark plays it to St. George. And a header off the mark, but still in control. Clark now outside the box. And Winland able to get it over to James for Baylor. Baylor in the white jerseys, the #1 seed. West Virginia in the navy. Esther Maya Keith tracks it down.
Let's go! Keep attacking! There you go. Move the ball. Let's go. In on that half.
And it will be West Virginia throwing. Substitution for the Mountaineers. Number 2, Jade Gentili. Keep in mind, once a player comes out in the first half, they can't re-enter in the first half. They can come back in the second half of play. Gentili in for Abraham. A lot of energy being expended here in the first half, it feels like to me.
Yeah, both these teams super fit. So, you know, I would say before how the format of the tournament was, you'd be really concerned about that in this final, having played a game on Wednesday and then one on Friday and then again on Sunday. But I think having that bit of rest in the week is really going to help both these teams today play at this pace for a much longer period than we've seen in the past. I think that's another reason I'm super excited about the matchup today, because it has seemed like in the past both two teams are so fatigued in this Sunday final game that it's just a grind. So I think you're going to see this high level of physical play and speed of play continue hopefully through the 90 minutes of the game.
Foul on Taylor Moon, and no substitutions, just a free kick being lined up here for West Virginia. Madison Clark taking care of the honors. She actually enrolled at West Virginia last January, graduated early. Sigala back. Here comes Baylor. Julie James, the midfield stripe, plays ahead.
I do think for both these teams, you just saw right there 2 giveaways. I mean, I think that's I'm not sure if that's the nerves of the championship, but it seems like both teams are just giving the ball to the other team a little bit too easily right now. Yeah, I think they have to focus a bit more on keeping possession for a little bit longer, getting a rhythm, and then trying to penetrate forward, because they're immediately going forward and they're just passing it to the other team's defense or the other team's midfield. So that might be nerves, though. That might be, we have to settle down. We don't have to go every single time. We can kind of knock it and keep it and then penetrate.
Handball looked like from St. George. Chance for everybody to catch their breath a little bit. As Want comes up out of the goalkeeper position for this free kick. Sends it to the 18. Into the game, Grace Smith, number 6. Settled it well. Out to St. George, over to Sengala, back to St. George. Reagan Paget has it stolen right back. And there's an example of St. George. She just works so hard. And Nikki Izzo Brown, the head coach for West Virginia, said to us, how can you not be inspired when someone works that hard all the time? And Abels serves it ahead a little too far.
Well, I think when you take it on yourself to push forward and help out on offense, then you know you're creating a risk for your defense because you're leaving a little bit of a hole there. So if the ball gets turned over, because you took that risk to push forward, it's on you to get back and get that spot. And she has that mentality of, oh, I just went and helped the offense, but now the ball's behind me. I better get back as fast as I can into my spot. So she kind of takes that of, I'm going to help, but I also have my responsibility that if I give the ball away or we lose the ball, I'm going to immediately get back on defense. I'm not just going to trust the defense to take it and stay up high. So she actually gets back right away.
That's a great explanation of why she gets back so quickly, but also it's her mentality, it's her heart that allow her to do that.
Yeah, because otherwise you think, oh, well, I'll just stay up top and I'll hope they win it and I'll just stay up top to help out. But no, she hightails it back immediately once they lose it. It's that transition, the switch is immediate. Whereas some players are like, oh, I got to get back on defense, and it takes them a second to realize I've got to transition. But for her, it's immediate. It's just boom, boom. I'm back on defense now. She sprints back and wins the ball like that.
She's a senior now, but she was the freshman of the year when she came in her first year. All Big 12 first team last year as a junior, Bianca St. George, and now the defensive player of the year. Gordon, Shania Gordon at the 18, serves it in. And scores it. Scores the first goal of the game in this Big 12 championship final. The service by Gordon, the score for West Virginia, but it's an own goal for Baylor off of the service from Gordon. Let's take a look back. What happened?
So this is what happens when you can just rifle it towards the net. You never know who it's going to go off of, and getting onto the inside of their player there. That was number 5, Sarah Norman, but not quite goal side. And so she couldn't quite square her body to clear that ball out. And so it bounced off of her into the goal there. A good run, though, by Sagala in behind to force that on Norman. And again, Gordon just ripping that toward goal. You never know what's going to happen. I always like to make the comparison to hockey. When you just put it across the net and you can get a deflection, then it still counts as a goal. So again, we see Gordon there, though, taking it on herself, stepping up as a senior in this tournament. She for sure has been the bright star for West Virginia so far in this tournament.
So unfortunate for Baylor in a Big 12 championship final to have the first goal scored against them on an own goal, although like you said, Lauren Sagala was right there in the middle of it off the serve from Gordon. But you and I had a good discussion yesterday, and we talked with both coaches about this. The mentality that West Virginia has at just continuing to pound shots toward the goal. Sometimes we've seen them not be on mark, but it's still, they typically have been out shooting their opponents. And sort of the strategy behind that, well, that result right there, that goal is one of the benefits of that kind of mentality. Baylor shoots it over the goal on that attempt, though, by Taylor Moon, and going to the floor in a heap is Esther Maya Keith. And they stop the clock at 8:15.
Into the Mountaineers, number 55, Lizzie Mayfield, replacing number 99, Shania Wood.
So West Virginia got to be careful here to not let up in these 5 minutes after a goal is scored. Can be a vulnerable time emotionally for both these teams. And Baylor there, you saw getting an opportunity kind of on just some lackadaisical play in the back there from West Virginia.
Ariel Leach clearing.
Get down! Jamie, let's go, Bears!
And playing it back to Foster. The only goal of the game on an own goal in the 36th minute. Let's take it again.
Look at this touch by Gordon. That is fantastic. Across her body, opens up, and then she slips it, looking for Segala crashing, and creates that opportunity with just the bodies crashing in on the box. So we talked about them taking lots of shots, but they also just have a lot of players into the box to get rebounds, to get deflections, and that's what helped create that goal there.
7 minutes to go here in the first half of play. The number 2 seed, West Virginia, on top of the defending champion, Baylor, 1-0 here in the first half. Battling tough Haley Sawinski into the game for Baylor. But again, St. George with the deny.
Here we go, Bears! Let it be physical! I don't want it! Yeah, let's go now!
And a throw in for Baylor.
Coach Jobson also mentioned when we talked to him about how this team doesn't get down when they're scored on. They just immediately keep playing, keep coming back, and they know if there's a storm, they can weather it, whatever it is, whether it's pressure from the other team or being down a goal. So this is a position they're familiar with in terms of that mentality. So they know that they can come back and tie this game up, win this game. It's not something that's entering their mind that they're going to sit in. They're going to keep going, keep attacking. So they have that kind of mentality. It's just 0-0. It's always 0-0. Keep playing with that kind of consistent pressure.
Yeah, he said we don't get worried about it in the moment. At some point, we'll break through and shift the momentum. That's the confidence that they have. He says when it's not going your way, you have to battle until there's a momentum shift.
Yeah, the way he described it was very Zen master. I thought he was kind of like, well, the momentum is going to shift back towards us at some point, so kind of be patient. So we're just going to be patient. They might score on us, but it's going to shift back the other way, and we need to take the opportunities when it does shift back toward us.
Coming out of goal, Want cleared it, but then the foul called on West Virginia.
These are always scary when the ball is spinning and it kind of dies and it's not quite going to your keeper, because remember, you can't play it back to the keeper with your foot, so you can't pass it back, so you kind of have to shield a player pressuring, as Segala did there. And of course, Segala's just trying to get the ball, so she ended up pushing a little bit. But those are always scary, those moments, because they can result in collisions with your goalkeeper, because you can't really do a whole lot to get the ball to work.
Esther Maya Keith clears it. Gentili on the far side.
Come on, Bears! Get the ball! Get there! Up my hands up!
Cutler. Over to Mayfield. Lizzie Mayfield, the freshman. Abel's back there to steal it again. It's fun to watch Kaylee Abels back here in the left back position for Baylor, knowing that she was such a scorer in high school, set the record at Waco High School in Waco, Texas, for goals, scoring 100 goals over a 3-year period, but has been converted to that defensive position. She was a two-sport standout both in soccer and volleyball and graduated with a 4.0 GPA, so not only a great athlete, but pretty darn smart too.
Another one that's had to step up in that back line because they lost so many with that great senior class last year for Baylor. So she had to come in and immediately contribute on the defense, this new defensive line for Baylor.
Off the foot of Abel, so it'll be a throw-in for West Virginia as another substitute comes in for the Mountaineers with less than 3 minutes to play here in the first half. Segala going to go out. Amanda Saman, a senior out of Bridgeport, West Virginia, in. West Virginia leading 1-0 with that own goal put in by Baylor in the 36th minute. Julie James had a goal for Baylor in the last minute of their semifinal game against Texas Tech. It appeared that nobody was going to score in that first half of the semifinal game, and Baylor found just the right combination to set up Julie James. So this is the #1 team in the conference, regular season champ, defending Big 12 championship title holder. Don't count out Baylor here in the closing minutes. Offside called on Baylor.
It's a good point to kind of keep an eye on Baylor here in the waiting minutes of the half. James did score right before halftime. So that's a big part of championship teams, is if you can keep focus for 90 minutes and not let up in these kind of vulnerable moments.
Sawinski has stolen away by St. George. St. George attacking, into the box, just over the woodwork for Bianca St. George.
I'm sure she's going to want this one back because she fights to get loose here, and she does get loose and has a nice clear shot. Tough angle, but we've seen her roof those really earlier in the season. So I'm sure she's a little frustrated that she wasn't able to put that one on frame as she was so loose there on that right side.
St. George has scored 6 goals on the season. And a lot of those have come here in the month of October because she only had 1 goal going into the Texas game. She scored 2 in that game and then 3 since then in the month of October as the clock ticks down here in the first half of play.
10, 9, 8, 7.
As the clock winds down.
3, 2, 1.
And that's the way the half will end as West Virginia leading the #1 seed 1-0 here at the half. The only goal, an own goal, in the 36th minute to give West Virginia the 1-goal lead. Everybody going to go into the halftime locker room, warm up, talk about it. Paul Jobson, Nikki Izzo-Brown get their teams prepared for second half action here in the Big 12 Championship Final. A title on the line today in Kansas City.